Honestly, and maybe this is said why metagame is driven by bans, and probably in not rotating format like modern, this is just the way it is, because in standard some things rotate out, some things comes in, and in modern there is no this circulation. We just have new cards that are printed, but besides that, this is only ban can really shake the metagame. So maybe this is just a natural way that the things go. But what was the question? I talked along. So looting ban.
Yeah, looting. Let's talk. What's your take on looting?
Yeah. So honestly, as we mentioned in the earlier video, it was Hogak that taken like 2 cards with him into Under the Water, right?
Right,
Because
right.
he took Weightless Looting and Bridge from Below. Well, thanks to him for that.
Thank you, Hogak.
Yeah. This is actually we are glad that Hogak was printed, because honestly, I think that for I don't know a couple years the situation is modern is that one of 2 types of decks is always broken. It's either graveyard deck with looting or or some opal steerings deck, and I guess I'm somehow objective because I didn't like Blue-Red Phoenix and I didn't like Ironworks, so I don't like any of those decks, so I'm not biased into any direction. And yeah, from Ironworks, some right now Urza, Wirza, or other Urza stuff, and through more steerings but still opal decks like Green Affinity. Hardened Skates.
Right.
I forgot. So there is always something broken from this area, but also there is like. Do you remember the times where Hollow One was broken deck?
I never felt like that deck was really broken. I mean, it was around and it was a player. It was just a lottery when you're playing against it, but like
that's true.
It was never like super oppressive.
It was never like super consistent, because it could be super oppressive, and when I was playing against it, I was thinking like, oh my god, please just don't let them have this nuts draw like 3 Hollow One turn 1. Yeah,
no, two street wraiths into Hollow Ones.
Yeah, and Gurmak and Phoenix and so on, and later on this deck just disappeared because it was like too weak. Its best draws were just too weak to beat the rest of the metagame. So I felt like for a year maybe that looting just has to go. Like, too many decks were too oppressive using it, and metagame was too fast. But honestly, I was very surprised when Wizards actually banned looting with the Hogak. This was a huge surprise to me. What you say about that?
Well, it was a surprise to me because I thought if they were going to ban faithless looting, it looked like the right time was in February, when things were already clearly out of control. And then when they didn't ban it then, and then they didn't ban it in I don't know if it was April or March, I can't, but like there went several banning and restricted announcements where it looked like faithless looting, it was time for faithless looting to go, but they didn't. And it at that point I actually just thought, well, faithless looting was just going to become part of the format. It was going to be the brainstorm of modern, and that's just how modern was just going to have to evolve. And the people who enjoyed the previous modern format, they were probably going to end up hating the future modern format, and then the people who really loved legacy would just end up maybe migrating to modern because it would become sort of the format for them. So it was a huge shocker to me when they finally banned faithless looting, because it looked like it should have been done half a year ago.
Exactly. Like, this wasn't the case of, oh no, looting is fine. Like, people used to laugh right now, oh, this is card disadvantage. Yeah, let's
I know.
But the most surprising factor was that they banned it like during the period when nothing broken with exactly faithless looting happened, because there was the time when Blue-Red Phoenix won probably 3 GPs in a row, modern GPs, and made second place in another one.
Yep.
It was like Greek Shadow beat it, but only once, and this was GP Bilbao and all the time around that. And I thought that, okay, decks got banned from smaller reasons than this, and they just let it live. So I thought, all right, so I guess we have to adapt to this. I don't like it, but this is the way it is. So I was very surprised, but honestly, I'm not a huge fan of all Wizards decisions, but actually I think I like the ban policy, their approach to ban announcement and ban list in modern for quite some time. I mean, for example, unbanning of Golgari Gravetroll was like okay, they just say let it be, let's just try. But they were not hesitating to ban it again. And besides that, I guess all the news, all the announcements are correct, I think. For example, they unbanned like Ancestral Visions and Sword of a Meek long time ago. And
Bitter
right now, Sword of a
Blossom,
Meek
Wild
might,
Nikachu.
yeah, exactly. But this is like probably the older time, but they unbanned Stoneforge, which is like another thing to discuss within the same time period, but Jace and Bloodbraid Elf. And Jace is very powerful. I think Blue White Control might become the best deck in Modern, but it's not right now, so I think it's fine. But I was afraid of that card too. And Bloodbraid Elf seems like a very reasonable addition to red green decks or blue black decks, blue giant or red green, right? But I guess just the general policy is good, and those decisions are very they have thought through all of this. But as I mentioned, I was like very surprised. Hogak just has to leave. Everybody knew that, right? This was like the most obvious thing, like forever, like with Eye of Ugin, right? But with Faithless Looting, it wasn't that clear for me.
But yeah, what I loved was that you recognized that it took Hogak to ban Faithless Looting. You know, it's not like Faithless Looting got itself banned. Hogak somehow helped Faithless Looting get banned. You know, we just pushed the format straight to the limit. Absolutely to the limit. And so if it was going down, it went with Faithless Looting went down with them.
Yeah, partner in crime, like Bloodbraid Elf and Deathrite Shaman, like the whole century ago, right?
Yeah, that's true.
They banned Bloodbraid together with Deathrite Shaman, but Bloodbraid Elf was this card that broken. I mean, 5 years ago it might have been very good, but 3 years ago maybe not. The fact is that if they ban something, this is like banned for good, almost. Like Golgari Gresham was the only card that came back and got banned again, but if something is banned, they are not likely to bring them back. And what is even more interesting is that in Hogak deck, Faithless Looting was not the most important part. It was like the second, the third, or the fourth most important card in their deck.
Oh yeah,
they had like Teacher Supplier and Hogak and Vengevine and everything else. And Looting was just like, this is very nice, very good addition. But honestly, if they ban it without Hogak, I guess Hogak still would be around crushing every other deck.
Absolutely. The Faithless Looting wasn't even the thing that they wanted to do on turn one. They would rather play a Stitcher's Supplier.
Yeah. Exactly. Dark Ritual on the stick. Yeah, and I have opened some webpage to see the latest ban and restriction announcements from the past, because I guess this is quite interesting if we take a look at the future, because when Looting was so broken, Opal decks were just like one step behind. We of course Urza was very powerful, and even in the World of Hogak it tried to give a fair fight, but previously there was like Dredge and Phoenix decks that were very good. And I don't know, I was watching a bunch of SCG, and besides the fact that people from SCG like to play Amulet Titan a lot, honestly I don't understand why, but that's fine. And they like, I have watched like every single round was like, okay, what do we have now? Amulet versus Dredge, or Dredge versus Phoenix, or Phoenix versus Amulet, and that was it. We have seen no Opal decks, but previously, of course, the best Opal deck was banned, so KCI, and because of KCI, we didn't see too much of Looting decks. Of course, Dredge was still very powerful, and Phoenix was probably rising, but yeah, Phoenix was already very good, but KCI was like far more broken than those two decks, right?